Golden Aglaea will slash apart her enemies, and today I'm gonna tell you how to build her best. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So what relics does this great and avid defender of Oklahoma desire? None other than 4-piece hero of triumphant song. Aglaea is the first speed scaling character, if you will, so the 6% speed increase is very relevant to her, especially when you consider that she is a Memo Sprite user, being our first limited 5-star following the Path of Remembrance. The 2 pieces attack percent is a lovely stat stick, and the 4 pieces provision of 30% crit damage to both her and her mannequins is very appreciated. Specifying that it works with our Memo Sprite is important, because not all relic set buffs apply to a Memo Sprite. 2-piece mix and match sets include 2-piece attack percent, electro percent, crit percent, and speed percent. As for her 2-piece string and orb, simple. Your most consistent choice is going to be 2-piece Ban Amusement Park. The initial 60% crit damage will apply to both herself and the Memo Sprite. But the second half of the passive, which features 32% extra crit damage, will only apply to Aglaea herself. Either way, a very powerful 2-piece that suits her kit splendidly. Otherwise, if you can manage over 160 speed on your Aglaea, 2-piece Glow Moth works as well. I say if you can manage, but really, you will always get the full effect of this 2-piece. This character has 102 speed at base, and gets 90% of her base speed from her ult alone, which count towards the buff. So you'll always be maximizing this set's value. The attack percent applies to both Aglaea and her Memo Sprite, but the increased damage dealt only applies to the Golden Lady. What's important to note here is that the wearer typically means the character, and that means that the Memo Sprite doesn't get buffs. As for Aglaea's main stats, simple. Go for speed boots, a crit percent body, an electro percent orb, and an attack percent string. A fairly simple DPS setup that anybody can achieve. You really want to hone in on speed when it comes to this character, due to how hungry she is for the stat, so use speed boots, no matter what. You'll go for the typical crit percent bodies or damage is crit appreciating, along with an electric orb, as that's what her primary damage type is. Because she gets so many crit damage buffs, you're more likely to choose a crit rate body on her. Then she scales on attack, so as you'd expect, you'd want to shoot for an attack percent rope. You can indeed go for an ERR percent rope too, due to her high energy demands, if a content you're facing doesn't provide Aglaea with energy already. But if a current content provides a lot of energy, then you can get away with an attack percent rope. Choose whatever suits your needs. As for Aglaea's stack goals, simple. Go for 70 to 150 crit percent, 2,500 attack on a 5-star light cone, 2,200 attack on a 4-star light cone, and 150 speed. Considering how many crit damage buffs Aglaea receives, 150% is enough. Try to aim for 70+% crit rate if you can. The amount of attack is the amount you want before buffs. Also, it's worth mentioning that she gains attack based on her speed thanks to her A2, and 150 speed before buffs is a realistic amount of speed that will get the job done with her. If you're able to get more while balancing all of her other stats, that's great, but 150 is all you really need. There are more specific breakpoints that you could achieve, however, they are very unrealistically attainable and rely on Sunday speed as well. 4-piece hero is her new best in slot set, so farm it as soon as you can. It works perfectly with her kit mechanics, so I recommend that you get it as soon as possible. Most of her 2 pieces perform closely within one another. Any of the ones shown here will be fine, but Ban Amusement will be your most consistent. Remember that buffs that apply to the wearer specifically are not going to apply to the Memo Sprite. In order to display the strength of the leader of the Chrysosayers, Aglaea is going to need the right weapon to do the job. So what'll her finest light cone choices be? None other than Time Woven into Gold. This is her signature pick, so naturally, it's very well suited to your kit. While the initial speed buff only applies to Aglaea herself, the rest of the light cone's buffs apply to both her and the mannequin Memo Sprite. The stats gained are meaty and well worth your time. Your next best bet would be Sweat Now, Cry Less. It'll provide your Aglaea with some additional crit rate, along with a damage increase for both her and the mannequin. Splendid light cone pick. You'd be impressed at how solid the 3-star light cone Reminiscence is. It provides some decent Memo Sprite-centric buffs, while being very cheaply available to any type of player. Excellent pick that works super well even though it's such a cost-effective option. Genius's Greetings is a solid 4-star light cone that you can consider using too. Some decent buffs for both Aglaea and her Memo Sprite. Good stuff. Use it if you have it. But keep in mind that S5 Reminiscence is actually better than this light cone, even when it's fully superimposed. And Reminiscence is a 3-star, so keep that in mind. Victory in a Blink works too and is free to play friendly, but I'm not sure why you would rather use this over the more cost-efficient Reminiscence. It works, but it's Aglaea's worst option, so I would rather use the 3-star light cone instead if you're having trouble finding a good option for her. Despite the Remembrance path being so new, Hoyoverse made sure that there will be plenty of accessible light cones for you to choose from in order to build your new Remembrance units. There's some excellent variety here that will suit all players. Yet who shall be teaming up with his Golden Lady to aid her mission of defending the almighty state of Oklahoma? Well, because she's a summons user, she's going to appreciate characters that buff not only her damage, but her Memo Sprite's damage as well. With that in mind, let's discuss her best in slot supports. Sunday is obviously going to be your de facto best in slot pick. She's a summons user, and the Orderly Lad was made for summons users. His buffing is absolutely perfect for her. Plenty of crit damage buffs, and being able to consistently advance forward her summon is no joke either. Keep in mind that you want to build your Sunday on an obnoxiously high 160 speed in this team, so that he's able to keep up with Aglaea's lightning quick playstyle, because she's easily the fastest character in the game when you consider all of her self buffs. Aglaea also has the highest energy set in the game, sitting at a lofty 350. This means that Sunday's energy restoration has stupidly high value on her, a perfect synergy. However, let's not forget about his dear sister either. That's right, Robin is an excellent Aglaea support. She just continues to prove herself as one of Honkai Star Rail's most consistently meta characters, doesn't she? Anyways, the advance forward is very appreciated by her, and the attack buffs she provides are massive. It's also nice that the buffs she offers apply to Aglaea's Memo Sprite as well. Pairing her with Sunday to form the Double Heaven core will actually be Aglaea's strongest team as of her release. Fantastic choice for her. Let's not sleep on the powerful and free-to-play friendly Remembrance MC either. They can actually act as a highly competent replacement for either Robin or Sunday if you don't have one of them. This character does quite a good bit in Aglaea teams. Decent personal damage, good crit damage buffs, can support Memo Sprites wonderfully, and is an all-round lovely free-to-play option for the team. You will be shocked at how well they perform here, so don't sleep on using the Trailblazer. If you don't have access to Sunday or Robin, you can consider using Ronmei too. Her universal buffs will serve you very well, as they typically would in most teams in this game. It won't be as strong as using either of the Angels, but it'll still perform well for you. Otherwise, if you're completely strapped when it comes to 5-star options, you can even consider using somebody like 4-star Ting Yun. Her attack buffs and massive energy generation can be pretty useful to Aglaea. Otherwise, universally good buffers such as Bronya and Sparkle, or debuffers such as Pella, will get the job done just fine. In terms of sustenance, you're not gonna fetch a better unit than everybody's favorite incredibly nervous Exorcist. Whoa. This is namely because of the energy generation that she can provide via her ult, which is very beneficial to Aglaea, as we discussed earlier when talking about Sunday. Easily the best choice for your healer. Otherwise, any of her sustain will work fine, whether that be Ling Sha, Aventurine, Fu Xuan, or whoever. They will work well. Example teams include Aglaea, Sunday, Robin, Huo, Mannequin Lady, I Will Have Order, Remembrance MC, Huo, Oklahoma, Ting Yun, Remembrance MC, Gallagher. This would serve as your completely free-to-play friendly 4-star only team. Lady, Ronmei, Remembrance MC, Huo. You get the idea at this stage. There are plenty of viable teams that you can form with her. Yet how does this graceful leader work? Well, her regular basic attack deals one simple electric strike. Nothing much else to add here. As for her skill, she'll summon her Memo Sprite, Garment Maker. If you use her skill when she already has Garment Maker on field, she will heal the summon. Before we continue with Aglaea's abilities, we should discuss Garment Maker a bit more. First off, we can outline some similarities that it has to regular non-Memo Sprite summons, such as Numbi. Because they are both summons, any buffs that are summon related or are compatible with summons will affect their performance in battle, and both attack enemies with corresponding debuffs. This can all help us better understand the functions of Garment Maker. However, it's still a very unique entity for a few reasons. Garment Maker is a Memo Sprite that has its own independent amount of HP. It can be chosen by an enemy to be attacked, which helps with your overall team survivability, and can also be chosen as a recipient of certain buffs. Numbi's attacks are considered follow-up attacks, whereas this specific Memo Sprite's attack will be considered a joint attack with Aglaea. This is an additional tag given to the attack, as Garment Maker's attacks count as basic attack damage, and Proof of Debt gets transferred when an enemy with it is defeated, whereas Seam Stitch requires consistent attacks from Aglaea in order to be activated. Garment Maker has its own energy generation rules too. First off, all attacks and hits received on it will translate into energy for Aglaea herself, and if a blast attack hits both the Chrysios Air Leader and the Mannequin, then Aglaea will restore double the energy. If you try to give Garment Maker energy, it'll go directly to Aglaea instead. For example, using Ting Yun's ult on the Mannequin transfers all the energy to Aglaea herself. And finally, if both of them get a team-wide energy boost, you don't get double the energy. For example, Huohuo's ultimate will not give her double the energy, even if it affects her Garment Maker. Also, when it comes to positioning, her summon will always be to the right of her. Typically, you'll have Aglaea in the first team slot, which will make it very easy for your Ho-Ho to heal all of your teammates. Trying to keep it that way, as moving her into the middle can cause her to heal Garment Maker instead of your other teammates. Okay, back to Aglaea's traces. Her Memo Sprite has more abilities, which we'll touch on in a moment. Her ultimate will summon her Memo Sprite or heal it to max if it's already on field, and she'll enter the Supreme Stance state. She will gain a massive speed boost based on her Memo Sprite's talent, and enhance her basic attack. A countdown is going to start on the action order, and when this depletes to 0, the Memo Sprite will self-destruct. She'll exit Supreme Stance when Garment Maker explodes. If you have energy restoring teammates in the team, such as Sunday or Huohuo, you can chain her ultimates. This means casting her ult before her current supreme stance ends. This is excellent when you're put up against incredibly strong foes, but keep in mind that this is super overkill in any other less dire situation. Aglaea's fast blast attacks are excellent depleting war armor, so that's another way she can gain energy for more ults if needed. Her joint attack with her Memo Sprite is an extremely strong electric blast attack that is not capable of restoring skill points. This does a crud ton of damage. Her Memo Sprite skill will deal a decent amount of lightning blast damage to enemies. Nothing much else to add here. Garment Maker's talent will have it grant itself a crud ton of speed after it attacks an enemy afflicted with Seam Stitch, allowing it to move more frequently, and it will always have its action advance forward by 100% every time it's summoned for the first time. Garment Maker will restore 20 energy for Aglaea every time it disappears from the field. Aglaea's own talent is what stores both the Memo Sprite's base stats, and is where the Seam Stitch debuff comes from. Aglaea's own attacks will inflict Seam Stitch onto an enemy, and after attacking an enemy debuffed with this, some extra lightning damage will be dealt. Only the most recently hit enemy will be afflicted with this. Her technique will summon her Memo Sprite, restoring 30 energy to her and immediately launching a joint attack. Then a random enemy will be afflicted with Seam Stitch. Whew, that was a lot to get through. Good job for making it through all of that. Let's discuss her Ascension passives now. Her A2 gives both Aglaea and her Memo Sprite a crud ton of attack scaling based on her speed. This is where her speed scaling comes from. Aglaea's A4 allows her to retain some speed boost stacks even after Garment Maker leaves the field, and when it's summoned again, a corresponding amount of speed boost stacks are gained. Her A6 allows her to start off every battle with half of her energy being full, which is very handy indeed. As for Trace priorities, simple, go for this. You can ignore her skill, as all it does is summon her Garment Maker while also healing it. These abilities are in order of most to least important. However, I would 100% upgrade each and every single one of these. They all matter a lot when it comes to your damage profile, so make sure to invest well. Do you wish to donate to the cause of defending Akuma? Then let's talk Eidolons. A nice E1 which makes her energy generation far more consistent, while also providing a boost to her damage performance. Fantastic E1 that makes her feel far smoother to play. Now this is an impressive Eidolon. Your damage output is gonna see a significant rise with this E2, as Def Ignore is one of the best ways to increase damage in the game. Brilliant stuff. All of her traces are important, so the upgrades to them are all greatly welcomed. Some more speed is excellent for the speed scaling unit. Lovely E4. This covers for the rest of her abilities, and since they're all important, this E5 is highly welcomed. Of course, this is a great E6. Lightning Res Pen is brilliant, and the damage increases to your joint attack are excellent. A highly potent E6, though make sure to acquire all of her best teammates before thinking about getting such a high amount of Eidolons for her, if you're thinking of going really high investment. In terms of Stellar Jade's investment priority, make sure to prioritize her E1 over her main light cone. Once you have that, you can fetch her signature cone. I'd also like to add that while Sunday and Robin are not requirements to play her well at all, it's worth considering picking them up over time. Robin will be running next to Aglaea, so if you missed out on Sunday, you have a lovely second chance available to you through those means. Otherwise, I'd stop there, unless you want to go all the way to E6. Aglaea is very impressive considering that she's the first main DPS following the Path of Remembrance, and in my opinion, she delivers wonderfully when it comes to feeling like a fresh and new unit hailing from a new planet. Speed scaling is an awesome mechanic, so if you're somebody looking for a fresh take on things, consider picking up this lovely golden lady. But what do you think about Aglaea? Is she as beautifully powerful as you would have hoped? Let me know down below, I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, I have a ZZZ second channel. Head on over and subscribe if you're interested in some fun, silly ZZZ content. I'd also like to mention that I stream on Twitch. I stream once a week every week on Saturdays, starting from 3 PM UK time. Hopefully this video is able to get your Aglaea slashing her enemies to threads. This has been Juice, signing out. And I guess you could really say that this woman's summoning a new meta. Ho ho ho.